Stop the presses. Your boy, Kyrie, has requested a trade from the Brooklyn Nets before Thursday's upcoming trade deadline. Now, you know, everybody and their mama is going to have an opinion on this. And of course, I'm going to jump in the fray and tell you guys what my thoughts are. But before you do, you know what you got to do. Subscribe to my channel, hit that notification bell, and comment whether you agree with me or not. One thing you can say about Kyrie is that he is very unpredictable. He has done an exceptional job playing for the Brooklyn Nets since the whole tweeting out about the controversial documentary fiasco, and I'm just going to leave that at that. And he's played tremendously well. He's been very reliable for the Brooklyn Nets since he came back from that suspension. It almost lulled you into some type of dream or fantasy that Kyrie was done stirring the pot. But Kyrie gone Kyrie. And Kyrie has made up in his mind that playing for the Brooklyn Nets is not something that he wants to do long term, regardless of whether or not KD is there. And some people would argue that Joe Tsai essentially stuck his neck out for Kyrie both during the pandemic and after this latest fiasco regarding the documentary that he posted to social media. But I'm not of the opinion that Kyrie owes anything to Joe Tsai except to show up and fulfill the terms of his contract, which is to play for the Brooklyn Nets as long as he's contracted with them. And if he's not satisfied with how things are going there for whatever reason, and let's be honest, we'll never really know the inner workings of what's going on behind the scenes with these teams, because there are things players will never say and conversations that we will never be privy to. At the same time, you have to wonder, he's close to home, which is something that he claimed that he wanted and was important to him since his family is from the area. He's playing with who they say is his best friend in Kevin Durant, who also happens to be one of the best basketball players in the entire world. And that's frankly not a bad gig if you can get it. Plus, let's not forget that he's playing in New York. Playing in places like New York and California, cities that are known for having the best food, the most interesting people, the most interesting events, and where, frankly, a lot of business is conducted outside of basketball, so there are a plethora of opportunities for professional athletes to grow their wealth outside of just playing their sport. A lot of people would argue that Kyrie is in a perfect position. There are so many incentives for him to try to make this work. Perhaps this is something that he made a decision about when the Brooklyn Nets weren't willing to offer him that big extension in the offseason. Or perhaps he's dead set on playing in a Lakers jersey. Or perhaps he's not happy with the management of the Brooklyn Nets for reasons that he'll never mention, because saying those things out loud would make him even more of a liability. Nevertheless, Kyrie is one of the most effective offensive point guards in the NBA. Sometimes he plays so well that he looked unguardable. Some people might argue that his talent is overrated due to the fact that he hasn't won a championship since he was with LeBron back in Cleveland. But one thing you can say for certain is that Kyrie believes in himself, he recognizes his value, and he firmly believes that he can continue to play these types of games with owners because he's so talented that there's going to be a number of teams that are willing to take the risk of bringing him into their organization, even on the off chance that his outside activities and his eccentricity will lead to disruption within their team dynamic. There are a few teams that might be willing to make the trade for Kyrie. I would say that the Lakers are likely at the top of that list, because if they can trade Russell Westbrook, get Kyrie, Joe Tsai would be in a good position because he can pay out the remainder of Russell Westbrook's contract and then be free to go out and pursue someone in the offseason that can come in and play guard for them. In the meantime, continue to develop Ben Simmons. This may sound ridiculous to some, but the Toronto Raptors should consider trading for Kyrie Irving because they have a great and effective point guard in Fred VanVleet, but the guaranteed 30 points that they can get from Kyrie Irving, pairing that with Pascal Siakam, would definitely improve their chances of competing against teams like Brooklyn and the Celtics and the Bucks. Another team that should absolutely consider getting him is the Heat. The Heat have Kyle Lowry, but we all know, and I have so much respect for the level of intelligence and dedication that Kyle Lowry brings to the game. But ultimately, at this point in his career, Kyrie is an offensive upgrade from him. I say that with all due respect. And I know what Kyle Lowry is capable of. I've watched him in so many playoff situations. He's smart. He's scrappy. He has a willingness to play within a system. I firmly believe that he makes players around him better. But the fit in Miami doesn't seem to be there as much as it was in Toronto. So bringing him into a situation like Brooklyn, I think would elevate their team because they do have some really good pieces around Kevin Durant, and giving him ownership of that team and allowing him to lead there, I think would be a really good pairing for Kevin Durant and for Ben Simmons. He could be a mentor and kind of a guide, and he seems to be a much more gentle leader than some of the other people that we've seen dominate on these various teams. The other team that absolutely has to consider trading for him is the Chicago Bulls. Lonzo Ball has struggled with injuries since he got to Chicago. In fact, if we're being really honest, Lonzo has struggled with injuries throughout his professional career in the NBA. And I have every confidence that we'll see Lonzo suit up and lace up his sneakers and get back out on the floor. But unfortunately, given his history, you realistically need to have another option to run your offense. And Chicago is a good team. They have some excellent pieces. And I remember when they first got this team together, how good they looked. They were one of the front runners to go pretty far in the postseason. They have to have a point guard. We've even seen Zach LaVine running their offense, which is fine. Zach LaVine can do anything on the basketball court. He can play defense. He can rebound. He can distribute the basketball. He can shoot. He can score in the paint. But a player who is as offensively skilled as Zach LaVine is much better utilized off the basketball. So bringing in a player like Kyrie Irving gives you the option of playing him more as a 2 or a 3, which is a much better fit and puts you in a better position, especially when you're playing against teams that are stacked like the Celtics or the Denver Nuggets. So that's one team that maybe people wouldn't think about that I would put on the list of trade destinations for Kyrie if the Brooklyn Nets are even going to consider it. So those are my thoughts. What do you guys think about this recent development in the NBA? Can't say I'm ever really truly surprised when news comes up with Kyrie that could be perceived as controversial, but it certainly does make things interesting. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I appreciate you guys for following the channel. Check out my shorts, and of course, comment whether you agree with me or not. I'm out.